Jail in Ohio are under fire after release of surveillance video showing them abusing inmates who were restrained and unable to defend themselves. I want to warn you that the videos that we're about to show you are incredibly difficult to watch, and if this type of content makes you uncomfortable, I just want to make sure you have fair warning. But with that said, let's take a look at the first video and I'll give you more information about the man who's being victimized here. Now, the individual who's being attacked, again, is completely restrained. He has an undiagnosed mental health condition, and that's according to his brother. His name is Terrance Debose, and the corrections officer you see hitting him is Nicholas Evans, and the second one is Timothy Dugan. Luckily, it appears that they're gonna face some consequences for this surveillance video and what they did. But right before they started hitting him, the first corrections officer, Nicholas Evans, turned his body cam off.
Right, you see it, he clicks it, yeah.
He clicks it, and so, again, luckily there are gonna be some consequences. The two now indicted guards left Dubose strapped in that chair for 2 hours as his face bled. He suffered a concussion as a result of the attack. Now Evans faces a felonious assault charge that carries a potential 8-year prison sentence if he's convicted. Dugan is charged with misdemeanor assault, and both are charged with violating the civil rights of the inmate. They pleaded not guilty at their arraignments in early April. Now, look, they've been indicted, which is a good sign, but when it comes to police brutality, which is a little different, even if they do get indicted, even if a grand jury decides, let's move forward with the case, oftentimes they're let go. They're either acquitted or they're found not guilty. I don't know if that's gonna happen in this case. I mean, the surveillance evidence speaks for itself.
It's horrifying and hard to watch. And there were so many instances. I don't know if you're showing other videos, but
yeah, we are.
So many instances of this. And you just, luckily, there's video. Luckily, they weren't smart enough to go into a room that didn't have, a camera they didn't know about.
Right.
This is, I don't know, it's monster behavior. Just seeing him turn off his camera
because he knows,
and just attack, just without even taking a breath in between, attack somebody who is completely helpless.
How would you two feel? Let me just ask this, and certainly to ask your audience also. How would you feel if a prison guard, that position, which has a high locus of control, right? A high opportunity for affecting people's lives without much consequence, and a high degree of power. How would we feel if prison guards were given a psychological testing battery to test for feelings of weakness or low locus of control in their lives? Because I do think at the exact pay rate that some of these positions are in, they do get people who want to feel powerful and abuse that power dramatically.
I agree.
I mean, there must be, because this is certainly anecdotal evidence, but we also have some broader systemic evidence that the prison system does not always care about the weakest individuals, right? And so I think that there may be a need for psychological testing. And I don't know about that. I really want to know what people think.
I wouldn't be opposed to it at all. I also think that there could be actual consequences when these reports come in over and over and over again, because that's something that we see when a police officer is the very few times, indicted for shooting someone that was unarmed. There were brutality reports and complaints and racism complaints and rumors and things that far too many people knew about, problems that far too many people knew about before it got to something that the public knew about.
You're right. There's usually a lack of consequences when these types of stories come to light. But the point that you're making, I think, is a really good one, because anytime you have a job opening or the type of profession where the lives of other people are on the line, I think that those jobs need to be treated as if they are the most, highly like valuable, highly regarded jobs where there is a high threshold. You need to go through a lot to prove that you're the right person for that job, and the pay needs to reflect that as well.
Right.
Yeah, and we see this with a lot of different professions. I mean, TSA agents, they don't get paid much, and these are people who are given the responsibility of figuring out whether or not someone is safe enough to fly.
Teachers.
You know how many guns make it through TSA?
Exactly.
Yeah,
and they need to have great pensions too. I think they deserve those pensions. But we need to have some securities. After Ferguson or during Ferguson, really, there was an editorial that came out in the Washington Post by a police officer. And what it essentially said, and the Washington Post was heavily criticized for running it, but what it essentially said was, if you don't want to get shot, let me do my job and trust me to do my job. And that is a huge failure of thinking.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And for so many reasons. And I think that one of the messages that it needs to come out over and over is sorry, but no, we reject that thesis. And we as the American people, with all the tools available to us right now for communicating, for videotaping, we are going to have a constant healthy skepticism of the people who have a high degree of power over us. And in this case, it's physical power over some of society's most vulnerable members.
I mean, employees at any other job would not get away with this level of cruelty, with this level of incompetence, this level of hatred. I mean, we're all held to much higher standards than some of these individuals in law enforcement are, and it's unacceptable. Now, as Brooke mentioned, this isn't an isolated case in this very facility. There were multiple other cases, and we're gonna show you another video, and this one features a woman who was arrested and detained for an unpaid traffic ticket. So just to give you a sense of the nonsense that she was in jail for in the first place. And again, it's a difficult video to watch, but it gives you a sense of what these correctional officers are willing to do when someone is restrained and unable to defend themselves. With that warning, let's go to the video. So again, this is a woman, she's strapped, and like she kicks him, right? But that doesn't give him.
That's a reflex too, and this is like he's pulling her hair.
They pull her hair and just spray her with pepper spray in her face.
Just let it sit there. As like she didn't need to be restrained. Look at her, she's strapped down. He just didn't need to punch her in the face.
It's
and also like that's a woman. You've got a bunch of men. I don't care. Like her body is a little exposed. Like she's got two angry men hovering over her, grabbing her body. That's already
one
a vulnerable.
Who punched her in the face.
Exactly.
The other who like pulls her hair and pepper sprays her in the face.
Like that's fun for them. There was that wasn't necessary whatsoever.
4 people in the room, 2 people in the room the other time. At that point, because it is very easy when people break out news stories to say, wait, this is anecdotal evidence. But at that point, it becomes a culture. Right.
Yeah,
if you have 6 people total, who are in this space, you're starting to talk about a culture. You're starting to talk about something that is getting tolerated, and people who aren't stepping up and saying something.
Yeah, they go home and sleep at night. It's disgusting.
Right. So let me give you some more evidence for how this is a systemic issue and how it's apparently a widespread issue at this very jail. Let's go to graphic 32. The corrections officers that I was referring to earlier, the 2 men who have been indicted, are actually among 8 who have been charged in various incidents that are part of the Ohio Attorney General's office ongoing probe of civil rights violations in this very jail. So this has been going on for who knows how long. Luckily, the Attorney General's office has finally done something about it, and I hope that there are real consequences. I hope that this doesn't just stop at indictments. I hope that there's jail time for these individuals, because civil rights have been violated here. It's abundantly clear from the surveillance that we've already seen.
And in that video, that woman there, in that instance, I think she's 29, a mother of 3. When she went home, her own family did not believe her when she said this happened to her.
Wow.
Her dad was interviewed and said he thought that if something serious like that happened, he'd know about it.
Right.
Someone would have done something about it. Like it's too crazy for people who see these issues happening every single day.
I know.
For it to even register that it actually does happen.
We are so skeptical in this society of victims and so unskeptical of the system. As someone who has won a class action suit against Chicago PD for police brutality.
Oh, wait,
that's a story.
Let's just drop that in at the very end of the story.
Right?
That's a post-gamer.
Yeah.
But I will say, it's worthwhile to believe people when they are talking about, look, someone who did not feel powerful in their lives exerted power over me, right? And I think that there's, especially, and I will call out my gender and my race, and I'll say white men are especially prone, as we're gonna see in the valedictorian story, to believe the system rather than people who have been victimized.
I wanna talk about that class action lawsuit in the post-game show for our members today. And if you're interested in becoming a member, we have a trial where you get a week for free. Go to tyt.com/trial, check it out.
On the go? Don't worry, we got you covered. You can still listen to TYT at our new podcast network. Find us on Apple Podcasts, the Google Play Store, or at tyt.com/podcast.